everything possible to try to get this baby to come down on her own. I did the whole pineapple thing. I'm bouncing on the balls. I'm walking. I'm running. I'm doing everything you can think of to try to make sure that I go into labor on my own. I did not want to be induced, and I did not want a C-section. And so remember I said they scheduled it for 41 weeks. That was 41 weeks, June 17th. But they had pushed it back 18, 19, 20, 21st, 4 days to the 21st. So here I am. It was Father's Day. Father's Day, that Sunday, whatever that day was. I think it was like the 16th, Father's Day. My husband went to church. My oldest went to church, and I just wasn't feeling it because I had been having Braxton Hicks contractions and just wasn't feeling the best. And I was like, I think this baby's going to come. So I'm going to stay home and just sort of bounce on the ball and clean up and do all these little things. So about 8 o'clock, contractions started to get really, really strong in about 6 minutes apart, 5-6 minutes apart. And I was like, okay, I think I'm going into sort of pre or active labor. I don't know what the proper term is, but I knew something was different. So I called the doctor's office. I told them what was happening. And the doctor told me, well, if they're not 3 minutes apart, go take a shower, take some Tylenol and lay down. And then in an hour, if it doesn't get better, you come on in or you call me back and I'll tell you to come in. So I'm like, okay, this is weird. Take a Tylenol, lay down. I don't know. Okay. I listened. I took a Tylenol, I took a shower, and I could not lay down. So I was in my room and I had already started like cleaning, sorting out clothes and stuff. So I did something like keep me busy, keep my mind off of it. But these contractions were coming and they were hitting hard. So I called my husband. I said, listen, you need to come on home. I think I'm in labor. You're going to have to take me to the hospital. And after I called him, I remember what my doctor said. If you want to decrease your chances of having an emergency C-section or having to be induced, try to stay home and labor as long as you can. I heard that in my ear, labor as long as you can. So once my husband got here, I was like, I know he told me to come in an hour. I said, but let me just see how long I can stay at home and labor. So we stayed at home. I mean, somebody came and got my baby. We ate fried chicken, sat around, and the pain was intense. It was super intense. But I just knew that I needed to wait as long as I possibly could to decrease the chances of them having to take this baby via C-section. So when the pain got to the point where I just couldn't take it anymore, and there was an hour and 15-minute drive from where I live to the hospital, I was like, okay, let's go ahead and go. So there we go. We hit the road. Dun, dun, dun. We arrived to the hospital. They, of course, triage, ask me all the questions, take me in a little tiny room and do all of the things that they normally do to try to figure out if you're actually in active labor before they take you to labor and delivery. My primary doctor already told me that they would not induce me because I had had a C-section. And what they didn't want to happen is if they were to give me Pitocin, it could cause the incision where they did the first C-section to rupture, which would cause me to bleed out and the baby to die. Huge risk. So they weren't willing to induce me. They wanted me to completely go into labor on my own. I understand that. I was in the know, okay? So the doctor who was going to come into the room, the nurse warned me before he got into the room. Listen, this doctor's pretty stern. He rarely sends anybody into labor and delivery. Don't be surprised if he doesn't send you home. You're only 2 centimeters dilated. She was trying to prep me for what was about to happen, but nothing in this world could have prepped me for what was about to happen. So even talking about this is hard. It's hard to kind of go back in my mind and recall all of the little details because I was in pain. I didn't have medicine at this point. I'm just in the room in pain and they're monitoring me. So he came in and he was like, well, I see that you want a VBAC. You know, we're going to try our best to do that, but I don't think you are because you're not progressing the way that you need to progress. Of course, I'm already devastated. I'm like, you didn't even give me a chance. Give my body a chance. I'm a woman. God made me to give birth to a baby naturally. My ancestors did it. My mom did it. My mom's mom did it, and I can do it too. And I just need you to give my body some time. Don't rush this process, because that's what I felt was happening. So he allowed me to sort of walk down the hall and labor a little bit. And so finally, they decided she's in active labor enough for us to put her into a room. So we get down, and the room is beautiful. It's nice. My nurse was amazing. Shout out to Brandy. I don't know her last name, but she was awesome. She had lavender essential oils going. The lights were dim. The room was like a nice suite. It was just calming. And especially after coming out of that sort of space, it was nice to sort of be in my room and get comfy and all of that. So shout out to my first nurse who was there to sort of help me through it. So as I began talking to her, explaining to her what I wanted, she sort of had a grim look on her face, but she didn't say anything at first. So then finally, she was getting off of her shift. It was about 7 p.m. And so they were changing shifts. And so she's my soror. If you don't know, I'm a Delta. Ooh. And she was my soror. And she just said, stay strong. Stick to what you want. I'm sending in another nurse named Courtney, who was also amazing. She's going to take care of you. She's going to be your biggest advocate. She said, don't worry. You just rest and do what you have to do to try to have this VBAC. She said, but this doctor is notoriously a little difficult. So this is the second person that's warned me about this doctor. And at this point, I'm like, okay, I have my guard up, to say the least. So the doctor comes in per usual, does all of his checking, and hours go by, and I'm like dilated to 4 centimeters max, maybe 5. And it's been a couple hours. It's been at least 4 hours that I've been at the hospital. And so he tells me, by this time, you should have progressed more than this. I need you to be thinking about going ahead and letting me do a C-section. So y'all already know, like, I'm fighting back tears. I don't want to hear this. I'm just like, can I get more time? And he's just like, well, this is what my suggestion would be. And so he leaves the room. I look at my husband, we kind of look at each other. I'm like, all right, okay, calm down, breathe. Let's think about it, whatever. He comes back in the room, this time more forceful. And he's like, I would suggest a C-section. We can go ahead and get it done. You'll have this baby before 11 o'clock. Because we just need to go ahead and get this done. And I'm looking at him and I'm just like, okay, well, now that he's come in, like, I'm feeling pressured. I'm like, okay, I asked the question, is this medically necessary? And he really wouldn't answer my question. He just kind of kept saying, I think you should go ahead and have a C-section. And so at this point, I'm like, okay, I don't want a C-section, but this man is really making me feel like I should have one. He leaves the room again to give us some time to discuss. My husband and I are looking at each other like, okay, should we just go ahead and do it? It's Father's Day. Wouldn't that be a beautiful gift to have my baby on Father's Day? And all of those beautiful things. But everything in me was like, this is not the right thing to do. Now, mind you, I've had an epidural. I'm numb from the waist down. Oh, my baby's crying. Hold on. Okay, I'm back. Got the baby squared away. So I had an epidural. I was numb from the waist down. I couldn't move. I couldn't, do anything on my own. So the nurses are turning me and monitoring me and all of the normal things that go along with being pregnant. So after this doctor had came in and told us that we need to go ahead and schedule a C-section, he went out to allow us to discuss it. And we were like really, really close to going ahead and doing it. So he came back in to ask us, had we made up our mind? And I told him, I'm a little apprehensive about the C-section. I really wanted a VBAC. And he said, well, y'all can talk about it, but I've seen moms who come in and they want a VBAC, and that stitching inside ruptures, and it's either going to be you die or the baby die. And I don't want that situation for you. I want you both to live. And so you need to make a decision. So he leaves out of the room. The nurse comes in, and at this point I'm like, okay, he's putting it in these terms, and I'm like, what should I do? Like, what should I ask? And I asked the nurse, like, do you see anything on the monitor right now? Like, is my baby in danger? Am I in danger? And she's like, absolutely not. I'm monitoring you guys. You're fine. With VBAC patients, we monitor you very closely. If we see any signs that anything's going to happen, we know pretty much immediately. So she said, just ask him for a little more time. So I was like, okay. Finally, she kind of gave me the language to, like, what should I ask for? Because I wasn't sure. And I mean, I'm in labor. And even though I can't really feel the contractions because of the epidural, I can still feel like getting tense. So I knew we were getting close. So when he comes back in this time, have you made up your mind? And I said, well, I have. I don't want a C-section, and I'm going to ask you if I can have just a little bit more time to labor. So this is when he flips on me. He's like, more time? How much time do you need? I said, well, can I have 2 hours? Can I labor for 2 more hours? And if I don't have the baby in 2 hours, then we can schedule a C-section. Absolutely not. I mean, he's irate. He's yelling, absolutely not. You will not get any more time. I've already given you more time than I've given any woman in this scenario because I know what you want. I will not give you any more time. You will die. You and your baby are going to die. Wait a minute. At this point, my husband rises up. My husband is chill, laid back, doesn't raise his voice, even at my kids. He's just uber chill. But my husband raises up at this point because now what you're saying to me, you're telling me that I'm not going to live because I'm not going along with your decision. So my husband is like, wait a minute, you're not going to say this to my wife. Who are you talking to? He's like, I would say this to my wife. This isn't something that I wouldn't say to my wife. And my husband said, well, if you talk to your wife like that, that's your personal business. But you're not going to speak to my wife like that because I don't speak to my wife like that. And I was so happy. I was like, oh, yeah, boo. You tell him. It's funny now. But in the room, I was upset. And I looked at him and I said, let me be very, very clear with you. I'm not sure who you're used to working with, but I'm educated. I said, I have a PhD. I said, I fully understood and right now understand the risk of trying to have a vaginal birth after cesarean. I've done my research and I signed the paperwork. And what you're not going to do is bully me into doing something that you want to do, not because it's medically necessary, but because you're ready to leave. And with that, he walks out of the room. When he leaves, and so let me rewind. When this confrontation is happening, the nurses are terrified. My nurse runs out of the room. She gets the head nurse. She gets the nurse over the head nurse. So we have 3 nurses in the room while this confrontation is going on. They're witnessing this and they're just completely shocked that he went there. Like their faces were like, oh my God, we can't believe this is happening. Are we going to have to call security? Because it got that bad. And I just, at that point, I broke down. And I am not a person who just breaks down, but I broke down because I'm just like, this man is disregarding everything I'm saying for his personal benefit. And I knew for a fact nothing was wrong during this process, but he was ready to go. And so the head nurse comes over to me and she grabs my hand. And I said, what do I do? I said, I'm not okay with him delivering my child. And she says, you have options. She said, you have options. So I said, well, what's my option? She said, you can opt for a hospitalist. Oh, what the what? I had never heard of a hospitalist before. had no idea what she was talking about. So I asked her, because I didn't have time to learn about what that was. I said, would you use this person? She said, 100%. Said, then that's what we're going. I looked at my husband. That's what we're going to do. We want the hospitalist. She said, so what that means is you're firing your doctor. That's right. We're firing the doctor. So he comes back in. The doctor comes back in again. Have you made up your mind? Again with an attitude. And my husband said, we have. Thank you for your services. They're no longer needed. He goes like this. Well, I hope you make it out. Some snarky comment like that. Who says that? What doctor do you know says, I hope you make it out? I mean, it was rude. It was nasty. And I don't know if you're spiritual. You may not be. But I believe that that was a spirit. It was a demon walking. And we recognized that spirit and we cast it out. Goodbye, sir. And I know a lot of people are like, you fired your doctor while you were in labor? Yeah, I did. I fired him. I told him to leave and I opted for the hospitalist. I later learned that a hospitalist is a physician who works at the hospital but does not work for a particular practice. So a lot of times they're seeing the patients who don't have insurance, who don't have a primary physician, et cetera, et cetera. So I had to get permission, all of that, to use this hospitalist. But it was the best move for me and my husband in our situation. So here's where a little bit of a ray of sunshine comes in. The nurses come in, and actually one of the nurses, the one who was the charge nurse at the time, she runs over to the bed and she gives me the biggest hug. And she's like, we've been waiting for a patient to stand up to him for so long. He's done this to so many patients, and it's just so nice to see someone stand up for themselves. I'm still crying. I'm upset, but I appreciated hearing that I did the right thing. So the hospitalist walks in, y'all, and she is a short black lady with some braids. And I was ecstatic. I was happy. Listen, I'm not racist. But when I tell you representation matters, and what mattered to me was I felt like this woman, number one, she was a woman. Forget black woman. She was a woman. So I felt good that she understood this process that I was going through and understood my desire to birth my child naturally. She got it. She came in, was lift my hands. And that's the picture you saw. I just praise God because it was an answer to my prayers that I would have somebody there to advocate for me and listen to what I wanted. And she did just that. She heard what I wanted and she said this. She said, we're going to monitor you very closely. She said, we treat VBAC patients just like a first-time mom, somebody having a baby for the first time, because when you had your child the first time, it didn't come through the vaginal area. We pulled it out of your belly. Your body doesn't know how to do that. It doesn't know how to push your baby down and out. So it's going to take more time. She said, and so we're going to give you more time. She said, but if I see that anything goes left, then we're going to move to a C-section. She said, I'm going to give you time. She said, your contractions aren't steady enough. So I'm going to give you 1 drip of Pitocin to get those even. And those should help you dilate a little bit faster. I said, that sounds like an amazing plan. Thank you so much. And my husband and I just literally went into worship. I didn't even know he took that picture till a couple weeks ago. Actually, I was looking through his phone and I saw the picture and I was like, you took this? He was like, yeah, I had to capture that because that was your freedom moment. And that was your confirmation that you can speak for yourself and you can get the results you want with your pregnancy. So fast forward, I got the Pitocin. Y'all, 2.5 hours later, my nurse had come in. She kept checking me and she would say, oh, you're 7 centimeters. You're 8 centimeters. This time she came in and she didn't say anything. And so I'm like, okay, Courtney, like, what's up? She's like, you're ready to push. And I was like, push? Wait, what? Are you serious? And she was like, yeah, here we go. And then she instructed me on how to push. 3 pushes. And that baby was here. and 7 pounds, 1 ounce, crying. All was well. I didn't really feel a thing. I was excited. I could hold my baby, nurse my baby. That night, I was up, walking around, going to the bathroom. The very next day, I was ready to eat Chinese food. I was walking around the room. My husband was like, you just had a baby. You need to sit down. But I felt so good. I felt so good. And I was so happy that I stuck with what I knew in my heart of hearts was what I was able to do, what God created this woman, this child of God to do, to birth my baby, to not have anybody cut on me, but to push my baby out. And I thank God for the other women who surrounded me and gave me a cheering squad in the back, like, go, go. Do it. Stand up for yourself. Advocate for yourself. Speak for yourself. I hope you've enjoyed hearing my story. But more than just hearing my story, the point of it all is, women, it is okay to speak for yourself. It is okay to advocate for yourself. It is okay to know what you want and to go after it. I never disregarded the advice of my practitioners, not once. I listened to them. I understood where they were coming from, but I also knew who I was. I know what God wanted for me. And I just kept hearing that voice. I got you. Trust me. Right? And I didn't believe for a second that he would leave me or that he would forsake me. At the conclusion of all of this, I wrote a letter detailing my experience to the hospital, to that physician's practice. So here she is in all of her glory. This is Miss Journey, and it was a journey getting her here. It's been a journey having her in our life. And I just want to use this platform to be a little bit of inspiration to you moms out there, anybody who's pregnant right now, planning to become pregnant, have already had a baby and really want to have a VBAC. It's possible. You might not have to fire your doctor like I did, but it's definitely possible. Just give your body some time. Ask for more time. It's okay. Ask for more time to see if your body will that baby will come on down on his or her own. So, listen, if this story inspired you, I want to hear about your story. So in the comments below, tell me about your experience trying to have tell me your experience trying to have a VBAC, whether or not it was successful. Share this story in this video with your friends whom you know are trying to have kids or will be in the future, and just let it be some inspiration for them in the process. She's ready to eat, and so that means it's time for me to go. I look forward to seeing you guys. Like, comment, subscribe, share this video. I love you guys, and see you later.